Welcome to our series of video tutorials on 123 Sync for ACT. On this video tutorial, we're going to address the issue of using a universal login to integrate emails into ACT. So, what is universal login? Universal login is when you have one single login, username, password with administrator privileges. The one in 123 Sync, it is the login used to connect to the ACT database. So when you open the ACT database, that's the login that you use. So what is the methodology that we use here? We log in into ACT as that particular admin user, and then we record the sent and received emails as a selected user in 123 Sync. This capability is only available on 123 Sync version 16.6. So if you're running anything before, even though it's the 123 Sync version 16, this will not work. We only introduced this on this version. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of universal login? The primary disadvantage is you cannot record private emails. All emails become public. In 99% of the ACT installations we've seen, that is fine. People want to see the in and out of all the emails to be public and accessible for all the contacts. But if you're using universal login, so that will work just fine. The advantages of universal login is the quick to set up and maintain. One universal login, and that's it. There's no need to know a ACT user's password to set up. So you just put it in, and that's it. And it is unaffected if the individual ACT user changes the password. The 123 Sync will continue syncing. And in this version, you can also integrate inactive ACT users. So we use that for quite a few different scenarios, which we'll be explaining later. Before we look at the setup in 123 Sync, let's look at the ACT database a little bit, especially about the users. We go to the tools and we go to the manage users, and here we can see that we have a set of active users, and these users have been successfully logged in. But we also have a whole bunch of inactive users. These are users that are still part of the corporation but do not have an ACT account, but they have a cell phone or even a laptop, and they send and receive emails from that laptop. And the reason we added them is we want their emails to be integrated into ACT, but we don't want them to be users in ACT. So we just add them as inactive users into the ACT user database. With 123 Sync open, we can now browse to the ACT database. Just open the database. Here it is, the demo. And we put in the username and password, Chris Huffman. And there's the password. And it will set up, and then we'll go OK with the United States, and we'll select and close. With 123 Sync restarted, now we can see that as far as the ACT users, we now not only do we have the active users, we also list the inactive users. So all the inactive users are now part of this list. In the past, on the previous versions, all you would see were the active users. Now we have both the active and the inactive. The one thing you'll see is that by default we put in the username of the user right here. So these inactive users, we just put in the username just to make it easy for the administrator to set it up. So now we know that these users, or almost all of them, we just want to do an email integration on that. So to set up, of course we have to set up the Outlook profile. what it is. But the interesting part is we can actually set all these by right clicking on the test button. We can make these users to be the same as admin. So we can just go in here and make all these users as admin instead of just logging in themselves. So now all these users are logged in as admin for the email integration. So which makes it quite nice uh, to set up quite quickly. One thing though about each user that you have to set up is the exchange. If you're using straight MAPI, these settings are unique for each user. So, or if you're using an Office 365 or a hosted exchange, each user has a unique user ID, login, and password to get in there. So these are very specific for each user, and these you have to use very specific for each one. The nice part is if you're using just a straight Exchange native on Exchange, you can just have the username with the server name, and by doing the permissions mechanism that we offer, you do not even need to put in the password when you install it on the exchange. So it's quite um, much easier that way. But if you're doing hosted exchange, you have to set up SMTP address, username, and password for each user in order for 123Sync to access that data. Now we've set James Steadfast as having an ACT test on our domain here that we use for testing. So on the process filter, we're just going to make sure that we are using integrate emails only. And now let's go to the email piece. On the email piece, the interesting part is everything is pretty standard as we had before, so just enable it. But we now offer a section that's called the Record Manager Settings. And that indicates how the integrated email will record in ACT. So if we set use ACT username as Record Manager, that means James Steadfast is going to be the record manager when it's get integrated with ACT. We have another option which is use the ACT login as the record manager, and the ACT login is in this case would be Chris Huffman. So you can actually set it, record it as Chris Huffman when we integrate with ACT. And our third option is to just use an avatar. So you log in as Chris Huffman, and then you can select anybody you want to record as a record manager. You can set it as Jonathan Summer. So what I'm going to do is just show a little bit of the email recordings that we've done using the different settings. So in our case here, you have James Steadfast that we run to record the email, and we use the ACT username as for James Steadfast, but we log in as Chris Huffman. So what is the resulting email integrated into ACT? So in ACT, when you look at the email, you'll see that the record manager is going to be James Steadfast. Even though it logged in as Chris Huffman, the record manager for this email still is James Steadfast. So changing our email integration options from ACT username to ACT login, let's see how this email gets incorporated or integrated into ACT. Let's just click on ACT, and you will see here that it gets incorporated as Chris Huffman. That's because if you look at it's the ACT login, and the ACT login for this particular user is Chris Huffman. So when the email gets integrated, it gets integrated as Chris Huffman. And of course, and last but not least, we go using an avatar. In this case, let's just select an avatar as Thomas Millard. So what we're doing now is the emails on the inbox and sent items will go as Thomas Millard as being the record manager. So let's look at Act and see how it comes up. So what it comes up now in Act is when those emails get integrated, oh, to get integrated as Thomas Millard. So by providing the most utmost flexibility in how to integrate the emails, you can decide just about anything from a combination of multiple mailboxes or how to integrate emails very easily without worrying about passwords of users that may change or anything like that. So the email integration in 123 Sync is designed to provide the utmost flexibility on integrating emails from multiple sources into ACT. This concludes our tutorial on how to integrate emails into ACT. So on our website at 123sync.com, there are various tutorials on different designs or different requirements of email integration that you may want to look at. We try to address just about the most common issues that or challenges that we have, but we recommend contact your ACT integrator that knows ACT and most likely is integrating our software with your environment. Contact your ACT integrator and he'll be able to help you.